All right, hey everyone. I think we are live. This is my first time doing it on YouTube Live. This is kind of new for me. I'm so excited to see you though. Maybe in the chat, if you would, just go ahead and say hi. Hopefully you can hear me and see me, that this is coming through okay. So excited to see you all. In the chat, let me know where you're coming from. I see some folks already introducing yourselves there in the chat from all over the country. Brenda from Savannah, not too far from me. I'm in Atlanta, so it's nice to see you. Sax is here from Virginia. Linda from Brunswick. Evelyn from Connecticut. See some familiar faces. Mitch is here. Evelyn from I said your name already. I'm a little nervous, to be honest. I normally do these on Zoom, and so it feels like a more safe, quiet environment. And now we're here on YouTube Live, which is really fun. Alicia's here from France. V. Parker from Canada. Karen's here. You guys, we have a lot to cover today. This is our novel outlining workshop. My goal for this time is that by the end, you'll have a finished outline, okay? That you'll be ready to write. Because an outline is nice. Like, it's nice to have an outline when you're approaching your novel. And an outline alone isn't enough. You have to actually then write the book. And I think it's so important that we not waste all of our time outlining, that we get into the writing as quickly as possible. And so my hope is that by the end of this training, you'll be ready to start writing, maybe right after you log off. You just spend an hour, or even 15 minutes, or even 5 minutes beginning your story. Wouldn't that be cool, right? So I want to, before we get started, just introduce myself so that you know who I am and why I know things about how to write books. So I'll switch over here. Hopefully everyone can see this. Again, this is like my first time doing YouTube Live. So I might not have this right, but hopefully it's showing up. I got started as a writer in journalism. I worked for a local magazine in my town called The Independent. There's a picture of me. And after college, I got started in journalism, and then I decided I wanted to be a professional writer, and my first big professional gig was actually through ghostwriting. I wrote a book for a mentor. That became my first published book. It became a bestseller. I went on to ghostwrite more books, but in that time, I also started the Write Practice. So in 2011, I started a website called The Write Practice. You might have heard of it, hopefully. Here we are. It looks a little bit different now. You can see like this logo that I made on Microsoft Paint. It was not good. We've come a long way, hopefully. And we started all the way back in 2011 around this idea of deliberate practice. That the way to make it as a writer, the way to accomplish your goals is not necessarily through talent or genius, but through practice, through deliberate practice over time. And that's something that's so important to us at the Write Practice, and something we still talk about today. I continue to write books. One of my books hit the Wall Street Journal's bestsellers list. It's not on this picture. It was a book I ghost wrote, so I can't really talk about it. But it did hit the list, which is cool, and I've helped many authors finish their books and get published. And the Write Practice has helped thousands of writers all over the world. Some of the people here have been helped and have finished their books with our help. Here are just a couple of people in our community who have finished their books and gotten published. From those early days of the Write Practice, we still teach the Write Practice. We still have a new article on the Write Practice every weekday. And you can go to therightpractice.com right now and get some really awesome lessons on the writing process and creative writing exercises. But we also do more things. We teach workshops. We help people get feedback on their writing. We do coaching. And we even do some editing, which is cool as well. We teach programs. We've helped thousands of people over the last 10 years finish their books. And, in my own writing, I've continued to do that as well. I've sold way more than 60,000 books of my own writing, as well as other people's writing. And I've sold over $700,000 worth of books. I had to do some hard math today to figure out where is it. And it's more than that. It's a little less than 1 million, I think, but somewhere in there of books that I've worked on. So that's a little bit about me. Now let's talk about what you're going to do, what you're going to learn today. All right? Today I want to help you choose the right idea, because one of the things about writers, but maybe just in the chat, give me a heart or raise a hand if you have an idea for a book. I think most of you here probably already have an idea for a book. Is that right? Am I right about that? You can give me a thumbs up or a raised hand or let me know in the chat. Most of our problem is not coming up with ideas. It's how do you choose the right idea? What do you do when you have too many ideas? So we'll talk a little bit about that. I want to give you a really easy way to outline. By the end of this training, I want you to have a finished outline and be ready to start writing. But some of us we want a little bit more planning. We want a little bit more detailed of an outline, or maybe right now you're in the middle of your book and you're kind of stuck and you want to go a layer deeper, right? I want to give you a way to go to make your outline a little bit more detailed that can help you get unstuck when you're in the process of writing your book. And then how do you actually write your book? What do you do if you get stuck? How do you make sure that you actually finish it? All right? Those are the 4 kind of things that I would love for you to get out of this training by the end. And ideally, that's our goal, that you will have an outline by the end of it. By the way, if you want to go deeper on any of the things that we talk about, I have a book called The Right Structure, where I talk in more detail about story structure, about how to create a really great outline. So we're going to go through some concepts today, and you might be having like a little bit of scratching of your head, not quite sure how to actually apply that to your own writing. Hopefully it will make it simple enough, but you want to go deeper, you can check out The Right Structure there. All right? Whenever we're thinking about how to write a book, it's important to begin with the end in mind, because like I said, it's not great to just have an outline. Some of us here, have probably outlined a book where you've had an idea and you've started to write it, and maybe you've put some ideas down on the page of what you think this is going to be. And then you started to write it and you got stuck, right? Has that ever happened to anyone here? It's definitely happened to me dozens of times, right? And that's the question, how do you actually finish writing a book? It's not enough to have an idea. It's not even enough to have an outline. Those things can be helpful. But how do you make sure you actually finish your book? And my hope is that we give you a process to do that, where it's not just an outline, it's a finished book by the end of it. It's a process that you can use to finish. And the first thing I want to just encourage you about is just to keep it simple, right? A lot of times we have these really ambitious ideas, these ideas for 6-book series, where you have so many storylines mapped out, and you're going to do a Tolkien thing where you're going to create a whole new language for the world, and you have maps in your head and so many things. And just for now, just for the purposes of this training, maybe even just for the first draft of your book, I just want to encourage you to keep it simple, okay? All great books start with a character, okay? But what do you do with that character? Here's a really simple formula that I use when I'm helping people work on their books. Let me just get my face out of the way. There we go. Hopefully that's not covering anything up. All right. As we put together a premise is like a very, very little outline, okay? And it's just a single sentence. It's your entire book in a single sentence. And what this does is it helps us get really simple on what our idea is about. It starts with a character, okay? When blank character, whoever your character is, gets into some kind of situation, they have some kind of goal, right? And then they learn some kind of lesson, all right? Whatever lesson that they learn, all right? And I would love for you to just take a second and write down your story idea in this formula, okay? What is your story idea in this really, really simple formula when your character gets into some kind of situation? They must blank and learn some kind of lesson. Okay, so an example that I like to use sometimes would be The Wizard of Oz, right? When a young girl gets swept away into a tornado, they have to find the wizard who can help them return home. What does she learn? What does Dorothy learn? I don't know. I don't usually share that part. The lesson part is kind of optional. Maybe that there's no place like home. Maybe that's the lesson. Not all stories have lessons, but most do. Okay? So think about that for your story. What would your one sentence premise be? If you want, you can share your premise in the chat and we can kind of see what people are working on. We can give you cheers. But what this does is it helps you simplify your story idea. Believe it or not, this is actually also part of the writing and the publishing process. So when you're writing your book and you're feeling stuck and you have so many ideas or you're out of ideas, you can go back to this sentence and be like, oh wow, that's what my story is about. Or when you go to the publishing process, you're going to have to write a query letter to send to literary agents and publishers. And this sentence is going to be part of your querying process. So just by having this sentence, this kind of super duper mini outline, you could say, you're actually helping yourself throughout the writing and the publishing process. And you're keeping it simple, okay? This isn't about 7 different books, 7 different book series. This isn't about all the different storylines that you might want to write. So it's just about keeping it really simple. Okay? Lloyd in the chat has a great premise. When Dante gets locked up, he must survive incarceration and learn how to be a man. I love that. That's super fun. And maybe you could say why he gets locked up. Like, what was it that he did that caused him to get locked up? And maybe you can focus a little bit in incarceration, like a little bit in the challenge that he faces. Maybe if that's a gang, a rival gang, or a particular rival within prison where, that kind of focuses the plot. All right, that's great. Here's a fun one from Karen. When the local art league group, consisting of prominent women from a small Midwestern city, is accused of an art heist, they must clear their names and learn to find the real art. Oh, how fun. I love it. I think you could probably simplify this for the sake of the premise. You probably don't need to know that they're from a Midwestern city. That would be good, like back cover copy, but maybe not for this. But I love the art heist. That's a great situation. They have to clear their names. What a great goal. I love it. So many good premises there in the chat. Do you see how helpful this can be? Already, right? We're already making progress. Now, what do you do when you have too many ideas? When you aren't quite sure which book to write? And what I would say is, write a premise for each of your ideas and then just ask people, right? Share your premise. What do you think of these ideas? Which one do you like the best? And feel it out, okay? See what people respond to. You know, this is a great way to get feedback in a really simple way. One of the worst ways to get feedback on your idea is just to start kind of like talking about the idea itself. And, you know, maybe you've had that happen where you ask someone about an idea for a book and they just start talking for a long time. And you're like, what is this really about? At the end. And that's a really normal writerly thing to do. But this gets you to the point of the story really quickly. And it helps people understand what's happening. And then you can just see, what do you think of this idea? Would you read a book like this? Get feedback on your premise. And then you have to do something really hard. You just have to commit. You have to choose. There is no perfect idea. Okay, writers? Some of you here need to hear this. Some of us perfectionists need to be reminded that there is no perfect idea. The thing that's going to be in your head, this idea for the book that you have in your head, once you actually write it, it's going to look different. It's not going to be as perfect, okay? And that's okay. That's part of the process. Your job is to choose an idea and then just finish a draft and see where it lands, okay? So take your idea and then just get started. Now, what's the next step? How do you actually create a little bit more detail of an outline? So we talk about 6 elements of plot in our right structure framework. There are 6 things, 6 elements that every story needs to have for it to work as a story, okay? It starts with an exposition. An exposition is just, this is what the normal world looks like, right? This is the world of the story. And then there's an inciting incident. Something happens, something occurs to the protagonist, and it begins the movement of the story, okay? Then you have progressive complications, where things get more and more complicated. There might be car chases, there might be love triangles. There are a lot of things that happen in this section. Most of the story, to be honest, is in the progressive complications section. And then you have a dilemma. The whole goal of all of those bad things is to drive the character to this impossible choice where they have to choose something that feels so hard, okay? And then you have a climax where they make that choice, and it's a really exciting moment, the moment of the highest action. And then finally, a denouement. Okay, a new normal, what the world looks like now after we've gone through all that story. So you could create a really simple outline with these 6 things, and sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming, right? Whoever has felt a little overwhelmed as they've tried to write their story, as they've tried to come up with their outline. And so what I encourage you to do, especially if you're working on a first draft, okay, is just to focus on 3. Let's just focus on 3 things. 3 of those key moments. And the ones that I encourage you to focus on are the inciting incident, the dilemma, and the climax. Because if you have those three things, you'll pretty much have a story. It's almost impossible to not have a story if you have those three things, because that's really the drivers of all storytelling, are those three things. So let's start with an inciting incident. What is an inciting incident? An inciting incident is something that happens to a character. Okay, it's not a choice. It's not a desire. Something happens to a character that puts them into this situation. So just to go back to our dilemma, or our premise, excuse me. It's this part, the situation, all right? Dorothy is swept away to a magical land in a tornado, in Hunger Games. Katniss's sister gets chosen for the Hunger Games, and she has to take her spot, right? In Frozen, Elsa accidentally freezes her sister, right? In Romeo and Juliet, it's the meet cute. Romeo sees a girl, right, and falls instantly in love. So usually, not always, but usually, your inciting incident happens in the first few scenes. For most modern stories, it happens in the very first scene, all right? So what could your inciting incident be? Think about that, right? If you want to write it down, this would be a great time to write it down. We're outlining here. This is a workshop. Write down what you think your inciting incident would be. And just a hint, like it might be in your premise. You know, like we talked about. Someone gets locked up. There's an art heist, right? Both of those are inciting incidents. Amazing inciting incidents, right? So the next one is, what is your dilemma? Dilemma is kind of tricky. It's also one of the key things about all of storytelling, all right? You can think about it as if, like, let's say we were in caveman times, okay? And we're sitting around a campfire all together, and someone's telling a story about how they ran into a lion, right? And they come across this lion, and they just had this moment where they didn't know what to do. Should they fight the lion? Should they run away from the lion? Fight or flight, right? What should they do? And you can just imagine like how exciting of a story that would be, okay? And this is the origin of all storytelling, this choice. When you're faced with something impossible, a lion, what do you do? Do you fight the lion or do you run away? Both are options, right? What's the best option? Okay, and so your characters need to be put into situations where they have dilemmas like that. Dilemmas with really high stakes, okay? And so we have a formula for this that works pretty well. There's a choice. Choice number one. Do you fight the lion and risk what? What do you risk? What's a consequence of fighting the lion? Well, they might eat you. Right? If you fight the lion, they're going to fight back, and they're bigger, and they have sharper claws, and they might eat you. The other option is choice number two. Do you run? Do you run away from the lion? Okay, what are the risks of that? They could catch you. They could run faster than you. Both are bad options, right? And you just have to choose the best bad choice. These dilemmas happen all the time in our stories. They might not look like that, but they might. So I really love this dilemma in Frozen. Maybe you've seen Frozen before. Princess Anna, this is a spoiler, just so you know. If you haven't seen Frozen and you are bothered by spoilers, close your ears for a second. But in Frozen, at the end of the movie, right before the end, okay, most dilemmas happen right before the end. Princess Anna's been frozen. She's about to freeze for good and essentially die. And she turns to the left and she sees not Prince Hans, just Hans, right? No, not Hans. What's his name? Kristoff, goodness. Sees Kristoff running toward her, trying to save her life, to give her true love's kiss so that she can unfreeze. But then to her right, she sees Prince Hans about to kill her sister. What does she do? Does she go and save her own life, but watch her sister die? Or does she go to save her sister and die herself, right? An impossible choice, okay? In Hunger Games, you've seen the movie, there's this choice of the berries. Do you eat the berries? Okay? Or maybe you've read the book. Do you eat the berries and potentially die? Or do you not eat the berries, these poisonous berries, and have to kill your friend, right? Romeo and Juliet. Do I stay in a life without the person that I love, my soulmate? Or do I end my own life so that I don't have to live in a world without them? Okay? These are impossible choices, and we see these moments all the time, okay? In stories. And they happen throughout the book, okay? All great stories are about dilemmas, and there's usually a main dilemma. In the second or third to last scene, what could your dilemma be? What is your story's dilemma? Okay. Now, the last thing is, what is your story's climax? What is the main event, the big show, the thing that your entire book is leading toward? Usually a climax happens in the very last scene, and it's almost always an extension of the dilemma. All right? So Princess Anna, she's faced with this impossible choice. Should she save her sister or save herself? She chooses to save her sister. She stops Prince Hans and then is turned to ice. That's the climax. In Hunger Games, there's the berries moment. She decides they decide to take the berries, and just as they're about to do it, the Capitol relents, right? And of course, in Romeo and Juliet, the famous final scene. This is what climaxes are about, okay? This big moment at the end where everything happens, but it's an extension of the dilemma, okay? Now, if you were a pantser and you said, all of this terminology, Joe, is stupid, I just want to write great books, just look for these moments. Look for these powerful dilemmas. Look for them in your reading, because you'll see them everywhere. But when you're writing, look to create them. Look for them in your characters' lives and focus in on them. Bring them out powerfully. If you do that, you'll write better stories. I promise you. Just all on its own. It's an amazing tool. Okay? So here's the easiest outline ever. Just 3 sentences, right? An inciting incident, a dilemma with 2 M's. That's a typo. And a climax. All right? So there you go. If you just do that, 3 sentences, you'll have a really solid outline. Okay? Now, what if you wanted to go a little bit deeper? What if you said, okay, 3 sentences is really good, but I want to have a little bit of a stronger outline. Or maybe you're in the middle of your draft and you're looking for more ideas. Or maybe some of you here have finished a book and you're looking to write the next draft, right? How can you go deeper? So we have something we talk about at the Right Practice, which is plot types, all right? Because as we look at stories told over thousands of years, we find that there are different types of stories, okay? Everyone has a different number of how many types of stories. I say there are 9 types of stories. Other people say different things, but I think 9 is pretty good. There are 9 types of stories. And if you can understand what type your story is, you're going to have a better sense of the structure of the story and what's really going on at the heart of your story. And I'm going to go through the 9 plot types, and just as I'm doing it, think about what your type of story is that you're writing, okay? Now the first one is adventure. Adventure is all about a MacGuffin. Does everyone know what a MacGuffin is? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. A MacGuffin is a literary term, and it just describes the thing that everyone's searching for, all right? The thing that everyone's searching for. So Indiana Jones is a really simple example, because they're always searching for something, like the Dial of Destiny, like the Ark of the Covenant, right? Like, you get what I'm saying, the Holy Grail, okay? There's some kind of thing that everyone's searching for. And they have to go on a journey to find that thing. Now, the next type of story is action. Action stories are really driven by a villain. There's some kind of bad guy, and they're trying to kill you or stop you, and you have to stop them. Okay, Hunger Games is a pretty good example of an action story. Okay? The Capitol, and Katniss has to take down the Capitol, or the other contestants, right? So action stories are driven by a villain. Adventure stories tend to have villains too. Action stories are especially driven by them. Horror is a third type. Now in horror stories, they're kind of actually similar to action. There's a villain, but they're kind of scary, and usually you're trapped with them in some way, all right? So we're just kind of turning the volume up a little bit. By the way, horror stories don't have to be in the horror genre. None of these have any specific genre. You can have horror stories that are science fiction. I read a horror story that was a cult story, right? About escaping a cult, okay? That can be horror as well. This isn't about genre. This is about what's happening at the heart of your story. Next is mystery. With mystery, there's some kind of crime that's occurred. Okay, so for the person that talked about some kind of art heist, that would be an example of a mystery. There's a crime that has occurred. It can be something was stolen. It can be something, someone was killed, whatever it is, and we don't know who did it, and we have to figure it out, all right? It's a perfect example of a mystery. Now, thrillers are very similar to mysteries, only the volume's turned up a little bit, right? It's kind of like action meets mystery, because not only are we trying to find out who the killer is or who the art heist, person is, but the person who's the criminal is also trying to kill us at the same time. All right? Mystery tends to be a little bit more tame, right? Thriller, there's a little bit more action. Next is love story. Now with love story, we're talking about every chick flick ever, right? All of Jane Austen's books. But you can also have love story about family. Like, love story is all about a sense of belonging or isolation, right? And so anytime you're dealing with belonging and isolation, whether between a romantic couple, whether between two friends, whether you're between a family, you're dealing with love story, okay? Performance and sports stories are every sports story ever. Also, stories about music or ballet or some kind of performance arts. There's a tournament, usually, in a performance story. Coming of age is anytime you're dealing with identity or worldview. A character who is wrestling with their identity is coming of age. All right? Doesn't matter how old they are. They could be 70. They could be 5 years old, right? But they're dealing with who they are and how they see the world. And then finally, temptation. Okay? Temptation is all about when you want to do something that you know is wrong, but you want to do it anyway. Okay, so Frozen is a good example of temptation. She wants to use her magic. She wants to let it go, but every time she does, it hurts people, right? And so she's tempted to use it, but she kind of doesn't want to, but she kind of does. And by the end, she has to figure out how to use it, figure out what to do with that temptation. Okay? So those are the 9 types. Let me know in the chat which one sounds like you. Lloyd is saying Rudy for performance, I'm assuming. Definitely. Great example. All right? Let me know if in the chat if these sound similar to what you're trying to do. Okay? By the way, we have some resources to go along with this. So if you aren't sure what your plot type is, or you think maybe you have more than one plot type, we have some really good resources in our community, and it's free to get them. So just go to therightpractice.com/join, and you can create a starter membership. And we have these plot type cheat sheets, which go into detail on the different types of stories. We have a plot type assessment where you can get a bunch of questions, and by the end, it will give you what your most likely plot type is. Okay? Some really good plot types there in the chat. Someone says adventure, coming of age, thriller. I love it. Coming of age, thriller, not quite sure. That's great. Now, if you wanted, okay, one of the things I want to say is each plot type has its own inciting incident archetype. So if you're not quite sure about your inciting incident, or you want to make it a little bit stronger, explore your plot type, okay? See what the archetype is. It's a great way to come up with new ideas is just to explore your archetype. Each plot type has its own climax archetype. And by archetype, we just mean this is how it usually happens, right? It's not a box, it's not rules, it's just patterns that we see in storytelling again and again, okay? So for action and adventure, most of them have a climax where there's some kind of big showdown, okay, with the villain. And they're, with adventure, you're trying to get the MacGuffin, but the other guy wants the MacGuffin, and you're kind of fighting over it, okay? That's a really typical climax archetype for adventure stories. And that's true for all the plot types. They have these archetypes, these similar ways of doing things, and it's important for you to know what those are, and then you can choose to do what you want to do to make your story unique, okay? And each plot type has its own conventions, some things that just often happen in these different types of stories. And those things can inform your outline, okay? They can fill in details maybe that you weren't thinking about. They can add new scenes. So go check out our plot type cheat sheets. Again, it's at therightpractice.com/join, and you can get those cheat sheets and fill in different things in your plot type. Sound good? I do see some questions. What if my plot has multiple different stories, like action adventure, okay, or coming of age thriller? That's okay. So again, these are different than genre. I see some people saying, "Oh, mine's YA, mine's fantasy." That's not really what we're talking about when we talk about plot type. With plot type, we're really thinking about what's happening at the heart of our story. It's not about genre, okay? It's about the values, conventions, structure of the story. But if you have more than one plot type, that's actually really normal. Most novels have 3 plots, okay? 3 plot types, 3 different arcs that they follow, okay? Most films have 3 arcs. We don't really have time to talk a ton about that. Maybe we can talk about it in the Q&A, how to do that effectively in your outline, but that's just something that you should know. Someone in the chat says, my plot doesn't fit any of these. It's about main character's legacy. So that would probably be coming of age, Jenny, because it's about worldview and their identity. All right? And we can talk about this more in the Q&A at the end. All right? So there you go. You have your outline. You have a really simple way to add detail to your outline to make it more complicated. But hopefully you have a simple outline to get you started, okay? And I just want to remind you that an outline's useful. An outline can help give you ideas. It can help prepare you to write. But at the end of the day, no one's going to read your outline, right? They want to read your book. And so you need to focus on finishing your book, on taking that outline and just getting to work, right? Doing the work of writing. So maybe in the chat, let me know, what was the most helpful thing that you learned today so far? Hopefully you got something out of it that can help you write your outline, create your outline, and move past the outlining process to get writing. Maybe you're wondering too, how do you actually finish a book? Like, it's nice to have an outline. I've had outlines in the past, but I'm not quite sure how to finish my book, to do the next step. So there's really only 3 steps to finishing a book. 3 easy steps, you could say. The first step is to create a plan. A premise is part of a plan. Then you need to create an outline, okay? You need to do a good book plan is more than just an outline, but an outline is the most important part of a book plan, okay? But you need to come up with a plan, not just for the book, but for the entire writing process, right? And then the next step, which is actually not so easy, is you need to write a bad first draft. And you don't stop until it's finished, okay? Some of us are not so good at writing a bad first draft. We get so stuck on making this perfect book. And I just want to encourage you, just write the draft, okay? Just get the words on the page. I know that this isn't easy, but you can do it. You can finish your book if you just keep showing up. But what if you need a little bit more support, a little bit more help to finish your book? So I would love to just get your permission to share a little bit about a program that we have at The Right Practice. Just let me know in the chat if it's okay if I share a little bit about 100-Day Book, our program where we help people finish a draft of their book step by step with the support of a community, with coaching, and with structure. Seeing some hearts. Hopefully that's okay. 100. Aye. All right. Thanks for that. So at The Right Practice, we have a program called 100-Day Book, where we help you take your outline, where we help you take your idea, and most importantly, your dream of writing a book and finishing a book. And we guide you through a process that works, that over the course of 100 days, you're able to finish a draft of your book. It might not be a very good draft, right? That's part of the process. Maybe you've already finished a draft of your book and you want to work on the next draft. And we can help you with that too. But by the end of the 100 days, you'll have a finished book. We've helped so many people in this program do that. Just a couple of quick stories. Jamie Biggs, she wrote her first book in our program, 100-Day Book. It got 1.2 million page views in just a year. There's her book. She's now written 5. I think she's working on her 6th. She's sick today, otherwise she would be here. But she's doing amazing things with this process. This is Essie Lauder. She finished 3 books in this program. She's recently signed with a top literary agent. She's sharing her book with the world. This is JD Edwin. JD finished her first book in our community. She's since finished like 7 books, which is crazy. Here's a copy of her book, Headspace, which did really well. The Redmonds, we've helped Navy SEAL couple finish their book through our process. Stephen Karst, who's a guy here in Atlanta, runs a popsicle empire, wrote his book using our coaching. Work is Fun, which came out recently. And all of the people in this bookshelf right behind me. So many people we've helped finish their books. Maybe some of you here, right, have helped finish their books in this program. So here's what you get in this program. By the end of the course, you'll have a complete book plan, okay? And a book plan is more than just an outline. An outline is part of that, and we'll teach you a more detailed process to do that. But you also need to have a writing plan and even a publishing and marketing plan, what you do to after your book is finished, and we'll help you create that. You'll have a finished draft of your book by the end, which will be amazing, right? If you've ever gotten stuck in the drafting process, how cool would it be to have a finished copy of your book in 100 days? You'll have a community of authors who can support you throughout your career. As writers, we need people. One of the funny things about writing is that you don't really do it on your own. We kind of think of writing as this solitary thing, but we need other people in our corner as part of our team, okay? And all great writers throughout history have had that kind of community, that kind of team. And we would love to help introduce you to our community of amazing authors who want to support and encourage you and could be lifelong friends throughout your writing career. And you'll also be ready to edit your next draft and navigate publishing. Okay, we'll teach you the editing process, or maybe you've already finished a draft and you're ready to start the next step. We'll help you with that. Maybe you're ready to start the publishing process and you need some support. We can help you with that too. All right? So in 100-Day Book, you're going to get the 100-Day Book program. Okay, it's a 100-day daily course where we're going to guide you through the writing process. Every day we'll give you lessons, we'll give you encouragement, we'll hold you accountable, we'll give you deadlines, and we'll hold you accountable to actually meeting those deadlines. Okay? You'll get access to our Write Practice community, a really amazing community of writers where you can connect with other writers and grow as a writer, get support, get encouragement, meet people that are like you, right? You'll have our workshop. It's really important to get feedback on your writing, and we have a really cool workshop where you can get feedback and you can make your writing better. New, something that's new that we're just starting right now are critique groups, live critique groups where you can connect with other authors and critique and get feedback, get critique on your story. And we'll arrange those through genre, so if you are writing speculative fiction, like fantasy or sci-fi, you'll connect with those kinds of writers. We have a variety of different critique groups, and you can get feedback live as part of that critique group. We also have a variety of writing classes. We have over 20 writing classes, and you can get all of them when you join this program. We have classes on the publishing process, classes on editing, more classes on story structure, so you'll get access to all of that. And you'll have a coach. So as you go through the process of writing your book and 100-Day Book, you'll have someone checking in with you every week who can give you feedback on your process and say, hey, it seems like you're too focused on this. You should focus on this. Or just help brainstorm with you when you get stuck. It's amazing to have a coach It's amazing to have someone in your corner who can encourage you, and so you'll have access to that. All right? So this is all part of our author tier. All right? You'll get coaching and a cohort. This program, 100-Day Book, our next cohort, is starting in just a couple of weeks. Okay? And you'll be doing this with a whole community of people, writing your books at the same time, having successes, having some hard things too, hitting writer's block, and then pushing through and seeing people finish, getting encouragement from other writers in the community. It's a really cool thing. That's starting really soon. If you join the author tier in our community, you'll get access to 100-Day Book and all of these things. All right? People love this program. This has changed so many writers' lives. People who were stuck for years, who wanted to write books and were failing. Sometimes who are about to give up, right? And we've helped them push through and finish their books. Here's a great one from Bruce, who said, the 100-Day Book course helped me do what I previously thought was unthinkable, write a book in 100 days. I actually did it in less than 100. This process works. We've helped people finish, we've helped hundreds of people finish their books in this program. And we love to help you do that too. Here's just a little about our community, our 100-Day Book group. And you can just imagine yourself posting in this community that you wrote 5,000 words, that you wrote 2,500 words in this program. That would be pretty cool. So we used to do this program as a one-time course where you signed up and it was $590. We've since changed that. We have a community model where you can join our community and go through this process with a whole group of people, okay? The author tier is $59 a month right now. So $59 a month for 12 months. You kind of lock in 12-month period where you're working on your book for 100 days, and then over the course of a year, joining the community, getting feedback, getting access to all of those resources for a year. But as a thank you for being on this training for a few days, we have a little discount. Okay, so it's $49 a month for 12 months. All right? And it's really a commitment to your writing. What if after 100 days you had a finished book in your hands? How cool would that be? You took your outline and you had a finished book. That would be pretty amazing, right? And then you have a community over the rest of the year where you can workshop your book, where you can continue to make it better, where you learn about the publishing process. That's how this program could work for you. All right? So we're leaving this open. We have a coupon, Outline 25. If you go to thewritepractice.com/author, you can sign up for our author tier and type in the coupon code Outline 25 for about $10 a month off. It's math and percentages, so it's like, I don't know, $9.43 or something. I don't know exactly. But that coupon will get you a discount, and over the year, you'll finish your book. All right? One of the things that we talk about at the Right Practice is this idea of deliberate practice. If you want to accomplish your goals as a writer, if you want to go from aspiring author to published author, you need to practice deliberately, okay? And there are 5 elements to deliberate practice. First, you need to learn the theory. Sometimes that looks like some writing structure things, like what an inciting incident is and what a dilemma is, right? You need to learn the theory, but you also have to put that to practice. You have to do the work. You have to create some goals, finishing your book in 100 days. You need some accountability, okay? Some deadlines. You also need a coach, someone who can look over your shoulder and say, oh, I want to do that. I would do this instead. Who can tell you what you don't even know to ask, right? You need to have feedback. Not all of us need feedback on our writing. If we want to grow as a writer, you need feedback on your writing to make your writing better, okay? And finally, you need a team. You need other writers in your corner who can encourage you and support you as you finish your book. Which of these 5 things do you have? I would love to know. A lot of people have like some theory, and maybe they're getting a little bit of feedback, but most of us don't have all 5 of these things. At The Right Practice, in our community, and especially in this program, we want to help you get those 5 things. We want to get you a coach. We want to get you feedback on your writing. We want to introduce you to a team of writers who can help support you and help you finish your book. I'd love for you to join us. You can find it at therightpractice.com/author, and we would love to help you in your journey to becoming a published author. All right, we're going to go into our time of Q&A now. So if you have a question, just put it in the chat and I'll make sure to answer it. I saw so many questions earlier in the chat and I kind of got lost. So I apologize if I didn't see them before. Happy to answer them now. I do want to remind you just again that the discount for 100-Day Book and for our author tier is going to expire on Monday at midnight. So right now it's Thursday. That gives you a few days to make a decision. We would love to support you as you finish your book in this program. You can go to therightpractice.com/author and get that. All right, just checking in here in the chat with some questions. Here's one from Eternally Curious. 12 months, but 100 days. What am I doing the other 2/3 of the year? So you could decide to take 100-Day Book again. We have a self-guided program, and you can take the self-guided program as many times as you want. But if you want coaching, there's a small upgrade. If you want to do 100-Day Book again, it's like $250 to do 100-Day Book again. We're figuring that out. So it might change over the next 6 months. But that's the kind of idea, right? And then after that, you get access to the community, so the workshops, all of our other writing courses over the course of the year, okay? It takes longer than just 100 days to have a finished book. 100 days is long enough to do a draft, but you need to do more after that draft. And so we want to make sure that you have the resources to do that, okay? All right, what's the difference between a plan and an outline? Really good question. There are like 9 or so things that are part of our book plan process. So a premise is the first thing, an outline, which you already have, but then also a deadline, right? Like, when are you going to finish your book? We supply that with 100-Day Book. We help you figure that out, but it's important to know when your deadline's going to be. It's also important to break that deadline down into weekly deadlines, right? So every Friday, you submit a certain number of words. For example, you have to finish 5,000 words per week, okay? Figuring out who your team's going to be. So who's going to give you feedback on your writing? Who's going to edit your book? Because we all need editors. Who's going to hold you accountable to finishing? Maybe a coach, for example. That's all part of a team. Thinking about inspiration is part of the plan. So other books that are kind of similar to yours that can they can help you solve problems, that can inspire you. Okay, so those are just parts of the plan. There's 9 things. Jenny asks, is it 100 days straight or only certain days a week? I need to know the schedule. It's 100 days straight for the entire program. Most of the course will happen on the website and in your email inbox, okay? So we're not all showing up to YouTube every day for our writing session, but every Friday you'll have a deadline, for example, and you'll have a coach who says, good job hitting your deadline, or not so good of a job, right? What are we going to do to help you get back on track? That's how the rhythm of the course works. You'll have an email with a lesson every day to inspire you and encourage you. And then we have a series of longer video lessons over the 100 days. Charlotte asked, do you strictly do the work daily? What if you have an emergency or an obligation? Do we lose one of our days of the 100 days? Or can the 100 days be stretched over a slightly longer period? So for this program, we just do 100 days. But it's not like you have to write a certain number of words every day. What we usually suggest is having a weekly goal. So like 5,000 words per week, right? Where, if you can write 5,000 words per week, you can finish, let's see, over 14 weeks, you can have what is that? Oh gosh, I shouldn't do math when I'm live. I think that's 70,000 words. Yes, you'll have a 70,000 word book, which is a pretty good length for a book. And then maybe you will need to extend it a little bit in the draft or in the revision process. But for a lot of people, that can be enough. Okay? So you don't have to do the writing every day. Just find a schedule that works for you, and we will help you figure out a schedule that works for you. But it's mostly about having the accountability that you're showing up every day, you're doing your words, right? Not every day. Why do I keep saying that? I'm like contradicting myself. Showing up every week. You're finishing your words, right? And you're making progress. And if you have a week that's off, that's okay, right? A lot of people will miss a week, and then you can get back on track. All right? Katie says, I've been looking at an MFA in creative writing. Would you say your course is just as helpful or more? That's a really good question. I mean, I think we serve different functions. MFA is a professional degree. So if you want to go teach creative writing or teach writing at all at a university or college, you need to have a degree like an MFA, right? But if you just want to be a writer, you need to finish your book. We've actually helped people who are in MFA programs finishing their books, because that's not really what MFA programs specialize in. A lot of times they're more focused on short fiction, which is amazing and really useful as a practice, but isn't what most people are trying to do. A lot of people finish an MFA without finishing a book. And so we help people finish a book. So yeah, like I said, we've helped MFA graduates, current MFA students, get the accountability support they need to finish their book in this program. Beyond that, I think it's personal preference. I will say MFAs are very expensive, more than $30,000, I think, is the average MFA per year, and it's usually a 2-year degree. So this is not that much, right? All right. Capital Region Adventure Group says the book is mostly written. Structure, chapter placement, lead into the next series is where I'm at. That's awesome. So it sounds like you're in the revision process. We actually have a version of 100-Day Book that's specifically geared toward revision. So if you've finished a draft of your book and you're ready to move on to the next part of the process, the revision process, we can guide you through that as well, and you can have all of the support and accountability that we've talked about in 100-Day Book. V. Parker said, what did you say is the cost to take the program again for another book? Great question, Victoria. So we're still figuring that out. Right now, we're kind of thinking $250 to do it again during the year, if that makes sense. Someone says, of course, there are those emergencies which create more time, such as breaking an ankle, 12 weeks to twiddle thumbs, binge TV, or hey, finally finish that book project. That's me. Sorry to hear if that's true, that you broke your ankle. That's no fun. But if now is the time to write your book, we would love to help you. All right, I'm just making sure we have answers to all these questions. We're going to wrap up in just a second. But if you have another question, we can answer it. Brenda says, I have a really cool, unique book idea that I came up with in a dream. I've been there, Brenda. I could use some help to get past the outline phase. Yeah, I think 100-Day Book would be an amazing resource for you. We'd love to help you do it. I see some people in the chat. Alicia, it's an amazing program. I saw someone, I'm in week 12 of my 100-Day Book session right now. That's amazing, Glenn. Sherry has finished a bad 350-page first draft. I've been there. Sadly, no, just USD. Thanks, Victoria. Thanks, Glenn. All right, everyone. I hope this was helpful. I hope you're ready to write. It's 1:08 Eastern Time, my time. Been here for about an hour. Now's the time, right? You have an outline of your book. Go get some writing done. Or if you can't do it right now, do it later today. The most important thing that you can do is to work on your book, to finish your book, to write your book. If we can help you do that in our community through 100-Day Book, we would love to do that. But if you can do this stuff on your own as well, and we want to support you in that. So no matter what you do, know that we're here for you. We have resources for you. You can go to thewritepractice.com/join and get access to some of our free resources. You can check out more about 100-Day Book and our author tier there. All right, everyone. Last question from Charlotte. Can we choose our start date once we sign up? I have a few things to square away and might need a few days before starting. That's an important question. So actually, we do this as a cohort. The cohort is starting in a few weeks, okay? It's not starting today, so we have a ton of stuff for you to get ready to write. That's going to happen September 8th is the next cohort, when the next cohort begins. So if you want to do that with your cohort, that's how you would do it. We do have this where you can start whenever you choose, all right? So it's a slightly different process, but yeah, you can do it at your own pace as well, but it's fun to do it with the community, all right? All right, yeah, as Sarah said in the chat, day 1 is September 8th. There's planning beforehand. And Karen says, I've got to go write. Good luck, everyone. All right, everyone. Good luck. Again, this coupon code expires August 18th at midnight, so make sure to sign up before then. Our cohort for our next 100-Day Book is starting soon. We would love to have you do it with you. Until then, happy writing.